Sometimes we do a story based on what it was like for firms to visit grounds from the perspective of the locals. We all have experiences of going to places like Manchester and Liverpool, but what drives the locals to fight for their team and their manor? Here we find out what it was like to fight for Man City as early as the 70s and into the 90s. Here's Don's story. I was born in Moss Side, which was then a very run-down area of Manchester and a few streets away from Maine Road. My father was Jamaican and my mother white English, which in 1960 was quite a rarity, especially in Manchester, so being mixed race at that time made you tough. I was neither white or black, so had problem growing up with both groups. Luckily I had two brothers and lots of other mixed race and black lads who would all protect each other. My dad was a massive City fan and took us to the games as soon as we were old enough. We were all City mad by age 5, and the thrill of the matchday atmosphere was enough to excite any kid. City were massive in the late 60s and early 70s, not as conquering as they are now, but Francis Lee, Mike Summerby and Colin Bell were sure good back in the day, winning both the league in 68 and FA Cup in 69. As kids, we used to make money by protecting cars in the Acombe and Great Western Street car parks. My first taste of football hooligans was West Ham at Maine Road, early 70s. We were only kids, around 10 years age. City weren't really known as a firm in those days, and West Ham were running amok around the streets, where we were supposed to be protecting cars. Some of the cars got smashed up, but I just loved it all. The excitement, the noise, the smells, everything about it made me want to find out more. So within a few years, I started going to the match with my mates, and we would stand in the massive side stand, the Kipax. At the time, rival firms would try to take your end, and the Kipax was our end. Spurs were in our end in 75, and Middlesbrough 77 also, but both were dealt with. Police escorts and segregation inside the ground was a joke, so any away fans that tried to take the Kipax faced a very nasty time after the match. Later on in our teens, we were often joined by a group of black lads led by Mikey Williams, who were based around the Robin Hood pub. These guys didn't mess about either. I would say our tight-knit firm was about 100 strong, all from this no-go area of Manchester that just happened to have a massive football stadium in the middle of it. Later on, when we were more organised, we also had white lads join us. That would freak out the rival fans like Leeds, who would be amazed at our mixed firm taking them on and standing firm against them. They were all white, and so were both Scouse clubs at the time. I couldn't go to away matches unless I was with my firm, the Cool Cats, because I stood out like a sore thumb. Of course, when we went en masse, we still stood out, but that was okay, because we didn't care. No one runs was our motto. We were once run by Everton, and since then this motto was adhered to. If we were away from home, anyone who ran was not allowed back on the coach or train, at least not with us they weren't, and they were banned from the firm until they proved themselves again. Parkside, a big pub on Lloyd Street, a few hundred yards from City's Main Road ground, was our main meeting point. If you were stupid enough to enter uninvited, you were done for. It was slightly in Fallowfield, so their lads would often join us, and we would then ambush away fans at various points around this area. Sometimes it was a skirmish, other times a full-scale riot. We would meet in Whitworth Park and organise our attacks. The Dibbles, our name for the police, were wise to our firm, but could be sympathetic if we played, say, the Cockneys or the Scousers, who they probably wanted us to sort them out. Sometimes they would let us pass no bother. We would ambush firms coming from the coach park and trains, anyone really. By now, police escorts were common after many away fans had complained to the City board about the actions of City fans ambushing them on the way to and from the ground. So now we had to come up with bigger, better tactics to outwit the police escorts. Millwall 87 springs to mind when I think about police escorts. We planned a massive ambush as the escort came into Lloyd Street. Bottles and bricks rained down on the bushwhackers and we initially run them down Lloyd Street. But the police baton charged us, and that allowed Millwall time to regroup, and we had it off right there in the street. Lads just laying into each other, no knives, just fists and feet. Carnage it was. Fair play to Millwall. They held their own, as did we. The police eventually regained control and chased us onto the estate, so the bushwhackers went on their way. But they certainly knew they had been in a fight for sure. Old school tactics still worked a treat sometimes. Only trouble was, we had now upset the bushwhackers, and they certainly got their revenge when we took a decent firm down to the den later in the season. It was a nightmare. Perhaps a story for another day. It was always hard trying to keep one step ahead of the coppers, but these tactics surprisingly worked before the police really got their act together in the late 80s and early 90s. After several similar ambushes, the police started to escort fans via buses from Victoria Station to Maine Road and back, so sometimes we would infiltrate the bus, wait till the copper got off on arrival at the station or the ground, and attack the Rivac fans right there on the bus. It was mad, but you'd be surprised how many times we got away with it. After the attack, open the bus emergency doors and leg it. Or we would wait on Victoria Station platform as regular train goers and attack rival fans as they waited to catch their trains. We used this tactic successfully against many firms, but Leeds 85 springs to mind. About 15 of our lads got arrested after we attacked 25 buses, bringing Leeds fans back from Maine Road. One Leeds United fan also got stabbed in the leg. It was basically carnage. I think this was probably the start of a lot of trouble between us and Leeds over the years. By 83, the Cool Cats had amalgamated into the Main Line Express. Same villains, different name. Then in 88, the police launched Operation Omega. They arrested me and 99 other city lads for violent disorder, a phrase, all sorts really, and we all got sent down. They had plainclothes officers that had been shepherding us for years, taking photos of us at every opportunity. We could hardly attack them or kick them off the trains or coaches, could we? They say they infiltrated the firm, but I don't believe they did. How could they? We all knew each other for donkey's years. But they did use photo evidence to put us away. That was basically the end of the Main Line Express, or the Guvnors, as we have morphed into by then. Things did continue to kick off every now and then, but for me it was never the same. The good old days of Main Road mayhem were over. For now, we thank Don for Ho's recollections of fighting for Man City in the 70s and 80s. I know from personal experience what a horrible place it was to visit as an away fan. I know some firms like West Ham and Chelsea say it was an easy day out, but a lot of firms know different. Along with a lot of places, you certainly didn't want to get separated from your firm and get lost down the murky side streets of Moss Side, that's for sure, whatever firm you were from. Thanks for watching. Please share, like and subscribe as it really helps our channel grow.